to the High Vibe Show, living the high vibe life with me, your host, Elisa V, and together with my guests, experts in the art of living in a state of high vibration, we have got an amazing show for you today. My passion is to educate and inspire you to raise your frequency to a high vibrational state. Whether you're an awakened soul to the power of your own consciousness as a light being, or you're new to this spiritual path of expansion and growth, which is made possible through vibrating at a high level, you are in the right place. So stay here to experience fun, frequency upgrades now, so you can manifest all you want and help to raise the collective vibration of our wonderful world. Let's hit the restart button and high vibe it together. The High Vibe Show starts now. Hello and happy Monday. Welcome to the High Vibe Show. I'm your host, Elisa V, and we are here on Transformation Talk Radio. This is where we talk about living in a state of high vibration, high frequency, energies of love, abundance, empathy, and joy. And you can find us here every first and third Monday of the month at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. Today, my guest is Susan Denee. And Susan is also a podcast host here on Transformation Talk Radio. Her show is Know You're Crazy, Emotional Recovery in the Raw. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here today.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you're here. Let me tell everyone that may not know you a little bit about you. So, after recovering from alcoholism and addiction in 2001, Susan developed the practice of consistent self-awareness, which led to studying personal development for nearly 20 years. And within those 20 years, she has coached and mentored over 200 individuals one-on-one in her spare time. Then in 2021, she decided to go all in as a full-time life coach, writer, and speaker. And Susan, you are accredited as a high performance coach, and you regularly speak on recovery, emotional elevation, and high performance techniques and strategies. You also produce and host multiple in-person and virtual workshops centered on emotional growth and focusing on identifying the trigger points that can tip each of us into our signature crazy. So, Susan, you have quite an illustrious career, and I know you also spent a great deal of time, over 20 years, also in the healthcare profession as well. So happy to have you here today.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's funny as you read that off, where my head goes is like, did I really do all that? Or is that really real? Or, I think often sometimes we're so guilty of discrediting ourselves when really we accomplished quite a bit. And maybe that's the nature of the beast, the human beast. I don't know. But yeah, so all is well.
Yeah, and I think, as both of us being life coaches, I think that's one of the challenges we have with our clients, to really get them out of that mindset of, not appreciating everything wonderful that they've either done, they're doing, or just by being here, that we need to appreciate ourselves. So I want to ask you, before we kind of jump in, I just want to ask you sort of like my signature question. What is it about what you do that keeps you in an energy state of high vibration and keeps you continually doing what you do?
Curiosity. Honestly, my belief system is I now believe in more than one life. But for a long time, I said, enjoy the journey. You got one life. Let's do this thing. And so I guess in this physical realm, I just believe that there's, we got a round here to go, and the sky's the limit. And if I'm emotionally blocked, or if I'm mentally unstable, or if there's some level of consistent misery going on within my life, I refuse to settle for that. That, I guess, was, it probably even started before I got sober, but that's probably the ultimate driver. I just refuse to be miserable on any level. Doesn't mean that I don't have miserable days, or, I've been doing my taxes the last few days. Hell, I've been miserable for a couple of days. But at the end of the day, I just refuse to stay stuck emotionally.
That's great. That's great. So can you tell me a little bit more like about this crazy, your signature crazy, and, just explain like what is this about? What does that mean?
Well, all of us have a tipping point where we go from, hey, all is well, the sun is shining kind of feeling, happy, joyous, free, I guess is how I'm going to describe it. And then there's life stresses and things happen in life. And something that stresses you out may not stress me out. It's what I perceive in this world or how I approach things is going to be completely unique to my lifestyle, my history, my upbringing, all my day-to-day experiences, the relationships that I have in my life. And so my tipping point is going to be different, likely more so than yours. It doesn't mean that we won't have similarities. You know, if we've got a negative bank account, I'm assuming we've all been influenced by culture to a certain degree where that's not going to feel good. However, our tipping point, or what I like to say is our crazy is different for each of us. And each of us have our unique signature, also how that manifests or how that shows up for us. The more I understand my crazy, the more I understand my tipping point, the better off I am in grabbing it sooner so that it doesn't have to dominate my life. If I'm walking around, you know, like some folks I've worked with, their crazy is depression. Their crazy is I'm always afraid of being alone. I'm not worthy of having a partner in my life. Nobody cares for me. I'm really not valued. And there's a series of symptoms that will show up before that absolutely puts them in a, you know, room all by themselves, isolating for 3 days. So there's a tipping point on that crazy. My crazy back in the day was a lot of anger. And so I just knew when I was getting ready to lose my patience, or I would lose my patience and then have aftermath to clean up, that that was my crazy. That was like a huge manifestation of what had probably started in some low level of frustration, maybe even a couple days before that. So I believe that know you're crazy is just a signature awareness of how we stress in life. You know, what are the signs?
So you have like de varying degrees. I'm sure you've seen it with clients and in your life. You have
Mhm.
people that have varying degrees of self-awareness and self-understanding. So
Sure.
how how do how does one become aware of what their crazy is? What are almost like what are those first steps? You may find that you're having similar reactions, on a patterned kind of way, and then usually you get similar results. So that's usually what sort of gets people to start to say, "Hey, I'm not really getting anywhere, or I'm not getting ahead in my happiness or what I want to manifest in my life." But how do you help people to figure out what their crazy is and then to recognize that they might have been triggered, to kind of catch it, if you will, before it actually explodes?
Here's a very simplified answer to that. You talk with them about it. You talk with them. How do they perceive life? So many of us go day in and day out, but we're really not taking a look at how we think or how we feel. We stuff it. We just keep going forward. We don't really pause long enough to ask ourselves, how do I operate right now? How I operate right now at almost 50 years old is going to be different than how I operated when I was 22 years old. But if I've spent years 22 all the way through 50 never taking a look at me, then there's probably a huge amount of, and I don't even like the word denial, but there's just a huge lack of awareness or a lack of even in looking within to really say, hey, how do I operate? What do I know about me? How do I look at life? How do I do things? If somebody's asking for a life coach or a therapist, or in the world of recovery, they're looking for a sponsor, usually they've got that very first indication of I'd like to change.
Mhm.
And that's all you need is a tiny split hair of willingness to look within. That's it. And if somebody's coming to you and they have that, then you've got a starting point. And then the thing as a coach that I have to be aware of is I get to meet them where they're at, because I've done a lot of stuff. It's easy for me to maybe have a whole other perspective. Like I said, everything's unique to each and every one of us as far as where we're at on our journey. But the individual, this may be the very first time that they're willing to step outside of themselves and ask somebody for feedback. And so nurturing that feedback and being very cautious with what they're ready to hear or not hear, I think it is part of um, as part of the coaching experience as far as the coach is concerned.
Yeah, I think I love what you said about meeting the client where they are, because it's also means that as coaches, it's a non-judgmental space, because we kind of take the perspective that everyone is perfect the way they are, but there are certain areas they may want to up level and move forward with. And so we have to start where their awareness or lack thereof begins, so that they understand that they're okay, there's nothing wrong, we're just going to be on this
Yeah.
journey. Yeah. So do you find with your clients that most of them are seeking out your help for specific areas of their life? Are they more just being, where your journey has taken you, in a great understanding and personal experience with addiction and recovery? Or is it kind of across the board that people, now are seeking you out and wanting to work with you?
Most of the clients currently, because it changes, but currently what I'm getting are couples. And they're
Or what?
couples and
Excuse me?
couples,
Oh, couples.
husband and wife, yeah, or partners, and they're coming to me through the world of recovery. So you get two people who have gotten sober. Most of the time they're married, and now they're running into bumps. And in the world of recovery, especially when you've got two people who are sober for a while, everybody's aware. You got awareness bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
In fact, I know so much. I think you should do this because I'm so aware. I've been there, done that, right? And so what happens is the relationship can start to feel crazy, or it can start to have stressors. And both highly accomplished, self-aware individuals want to move the relationship forward. They want to have new goals. They want to kind of get these little things out of the way. And so what I do with the couples currently is we'll go through my emotional elevation platform, which really is just about communicating agreements, couple agreements, couple values, coming together as a team. And then if they go through the emotional elevation and, if they continue with me, then I take them through high performance coaching, because now we're into goal setting. And so now we take it up a level to kick into the goal setting. And sometimes we do that individually. They'll be setting their goals individually, but we're on one session. And so
Hmm.
each partner gets to hear what the other one's doing, which is really beneficial, because I think sometimes couples get stuck in hey, I want to work out all the time, but you don't understand. And so when they're setting their goals together, they both know what's on the table for one another, and there's a different level of support with each other. So that's kind of where it's been recently for me. And they're coming through the world of recovery. I've had a couple people interview that are not in the world of recovery, and they hang out for a while and then they go about their day. So I really enjoy working with folks in recovery. I love it. I love it. They've been to hell and back. They know they've been to hell and back. There's a level of acceptance there that they're crazy. They've been crazy. They tend to, it's humorous. We get to laugh at our escapades. There's a common denominator. So that's probably my sweet spot. That's where I really love to be.
So tell me a little bit about your journey, because I know that you spent close to 25 years in the financial and marketing
Oh
area
yeah.
of healthcare. So, it's not a far leap that you're helping people, right? Because but in terms of what you were actually doing and how you were spending your day at work, how did that kind of one thing lead to the next? And I'm sure, I'd love for everyone to hear how your journey took you from one vocation to another, and the talents and the experience you had in those areas, which are a little more, I guess we'd say, cerebral, right? When you're marketing and, you're dealing in
Yeah.
financial and numbers, and now you're dealing with emotions and trigger points. So talk to that a little bit.
So my story, healthcare, I got to be completely transparent here. Healthcare and debt collection. So let me just say the financial 25 years was in debt collection. 20 years of it was teaching, speaking, marketing to healthcare organizations for their debt collection. And so I want to be real clear on that, because when you're in debt collection for so many years, I mean, getting sober and being a bill collector, that's a book all in itself, just to let you know, because and then the world changes, right? So if we back up, if you say 25 years, our world has changed in 25 years, quite a bit, quite a bit. especially like since financial crisis, 2008, like all these things happened and transpired. So I became a bill collector because I needed to pay the bills. I was 20 years old. I was living in Phoenix. I thought I had skill. Come to find out, I really didn't, other than I typed fast. And I was angry. Remember, I was angry. And so I could negotiate because I just didn't care. I had no, back then, I was just so black and white, so common sense. You should just go get 3 jobs if you can't pay your bills type of mentality. And I was coming from a very blue collar environment. My dad was a no nonsense guy. My mom, unfortunately, also suffered from alcoholism. So I was raised in an alcoholic home. So I'm coming from this world of, kind of like in this emotional survival on one level, but then a father who was always be no nonsense. And so I got into debt collection and I ended up being really good at it. And it ended up, making really good money at it. And so that transformed eventually when I moved up to the Seattle area and I got in with a collection agency who specialized in healthcare. And the reason that was beneficial for me, and I got sober less than 6 months after started working there. The reason that was beneficial for me was because healthcare is super sensitive. Like, not that other things aren't sensitive, but there's a belief that healthcare is sensitive from mass culture, right? So it's kind of one of those things where you can't be a jerk on a medical bill with somebody who just had cancer.
Right.
Like, even for somebody who's blinded by their own obnoxiousness, like I was, I can't even deny that. And then you throw in a handful of sobriety, and now we're talking about all this self-awareness coming in, and you've got this recipe. So during the majority of my sobriety, I was spent doing this. And then on the side, I would be mentoring all these women in sobriety. And so I'd go to work, I'd work full time, I'd in my spare time, that's why that's in the bio.
Yeah.
6 a.m. on the weekends, I'd be working one-on-one with women. I was raising 4 kids, just doing my thing, just crazy, amped up crazy, running and just crazy. But for whatever reason, the universe made it possible. So the transition from that, I mean, does anybody really wake up one day and say, when I grow up, I want to be a bill collector? I mean, I just don't think,
Right.
or do they wake up one day and say, I want to be an alcoholic? Let me go through the 12 steps of AA. Okay. We're not there we don't get there on winning streaks. We get there based on doing the best we can. So there was an opportunity at my day job to buy the company. It fell through after I had leveraged my house, leveraged everything to take a step up, become owner. I had never really in sobriety at that point. I was about 14 years clean and sober. I'd never really asked myself what I wanted to do. Like, I was just really good at what I did and I was helping all those people. And so I just never really had the ambition professional kick in. I mean, I knew I was good at what I did. People compliment me, all that good stuff. But the personal, like what really intrigued me hadn't been lit. And when that opportunity, he changed his mind like 2 days before we were supposed to close. And so I've been bragging I was going to be an owner. I had all these hopes. Something got lit inside of me. I wanted an opportunity at more in life. And I was crushed. I was crushed. It was like a professional rock bottom. But it fueled me into learning new skill sets. And one of those skill sets was when I finally started getting into self-employment, entrepreneur mindset, and it got lit. And that's when the skill development began, and the marketing, and the Brendan Bouchards, and the Wayne Dyers, and the conferences, and the online marketing programs. And oh my God, I've taken so many courses, I've lost count. Hell, half of them might be sitting in my laptop I haven't even opened yet. I mean, it was just like fueled. So that was the transition. That's how I got there. And then, life happens, tragedy happens sometimes. I lost my father in 2020. Another kind of rock bottom emotional moment, throw in some menopause, throw in some kids in addiction. I mean, recipe for disaster, but made me realize, do I really want to stay at this company anymore? And the reality was like, no, I'm ready to leave. And so I left there in May of 21. And so I've just been continuing to help those women. I've been doing that for a long time. And then I got into the coaching. And so now I'm kind of like I like to say like I'm a side hustle entrepreneur. I love real estate. Like my newest venture is I'm investing in a bunch of properties. Like I'm I love coaching couples. Like it's all good.
Yeah. And I think, what you said, like sometimes we have something that happens, there's always a major kind of a trigger or something that if you listen to most people that seems like the end of the world or the worst thing that could happen or has you hit bottom. Like in my case, it was my divorce, and having to change my whole lifestyle. And those are usually the most important, profound moments, right? Because if everything's okay, you're just moving along, there's not much of an impetus. But when something like bam hits you, it's all of a sudden you start to like just go deep within yourself and you find out things about yourself that you never knew and interests that you never knew you had, and you kind of rise into, more of the person that you're supposed to be. And it's very funny because the more I speak to people, so many people that have had these, no matter what their backgrounds are, so many people that have had these kind of profound events, which were perceived as very negative or tragic, somehow most people come out of that really wanting to help other people. It's pretty remarkable. If you look at a lot of people, it's something just gets triggered within us in our soul or our spiritual development that kind of guides us towards wanting to help and see other people flourish in some way and use all those experiences, both good and bad, to help them rise. And I think it's kind of like a pattern, if you look at a lot of people out there who are successful. But I know
Yeah.
we did have a chance to speak privately where we were both, on the same page when we went through that 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 igniting stage of just the books and the reading. And like you said, Wayne Dyer and Joe Dispenza and, all the podcasts. And it's like your mind just wants to soak up as much information, you're just ready to sort of explode with all of this newness, and it just kind of ignites the spirituality within us. So what's new? What's new? We have a few more minutes, but what's new for
Um,
you and upcoming?
so there was one thing I'll comment on this and then I'll get into what's new was I don't know why it just feels important to say. I think, I was thinking about our interview and I was thinking about my book, Emotional Jacket. And I was really, which is what will be coming up. And I was thinking to myself how important it is to really pay attention to the skill set development piece of life. The emotional jacket would be more of your emotional skill set development, because we can, if we get too heady or we get too flighty and we don't keep those feet on the ground, we can become addicted to the Wayne Dyers and the Brendan Bouchards and the Tony Robbins, and we can feel so disconnected from that and how that's never going to be possible for me. And when you're out on this journey on your own, if this is what you're choosing to do and you want to help people, or maybe that's your passion, like whatever's being lit, there will come a time where it just doesn't work for a couple of days, or make it come for a month, or you'll be asking yourself, what the hell am I doing and why am I doing it? And you'll realize it'll get really big and it might get really overwhelming. And so I think it's really, so I just want to really stress the importance to your audience or anybody who's listening about the need for skill set development, because that is where the confidence is born. And that's from where we spring. So we get to use the rock bottom or the moment of awareness or the difficulty that we've experienced. We get to use that as a springboard, and we get to spring. And we get to have a pink cloud moment, and we get to live in, la la land. And oh my God, I've been awakened, and I'm gonna start my own deal, and blah blah blah, right? And then there's like this hovering thing that happens where it's like, oh, I didn't realize it was gonna be this hard. Oh, wow. And then we, what I did was I would just continue to download information. So, and then I got a little big. So what's new for me? I just wanted to put that out there for anybody.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point because you're right. We you sort of have to stop, and when you say about the skill set, then you need to really get serious about, how you're going to formulate this into the everyday workings of a business or a vocation of some kind. So yeah, so you have your book, Emotional Jacket.
So think about codependency for the alcoholic. I just say alcoholic because I can, but it's really we're all codependent to some degree. A long time ago, I'd be working with women, and what I found was they were having a really hard time when they would get triggered by their partner for whatever reason. Partner walks in the house, they become overly obsessed, overly focused on what their behavior is, how they're working, and they start adjusting themselves. Maybe I'm going to go over here, maybe I'm going to go over here and do this, or they become victims and they start blaming the other person for their behaviors for why they feel like crap. And so over time, I don't know, it came out of probably downloaded from the universe. I just thought I described it as an emotional jacket, which literally is like the emotional strategy on how to deal with relationships in your life. When you find that you are facing a hurdle or a resentment or some repetitive negativity regarding a relationship, and you learn how to remove their emotional jacket that you've chosen to put on, and how to spot it when it goes on, how to take it off, and how to give it back to them, but then start to really own your own emotional jacket. And we can wear emotional jackets with anybody. It can be our kids. That's a good one for parents, kids. It can be a boss. It can be marital partners you live in. It can be all kinds of things. But that's kind of like in a nutshell what that book is about.
And
Mhm.
where can people get that? Where can they find your book?
Well, it's not out yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not
Oh,
out
okay.
yet, but it'll be on its way. So no, if you have any questions about that, you can just go to my website, Susan Denee, Denee, SusanDenee.com. There's even an emotional jacket tab on there now for different types of coaching. So if that's something that works with folks, you can just get a hold of me through there, or social media, Susan Denee, Know You're Crazy, YouTube channel, all that good stuff.
Okay, good. And tell everyone when your show airs on
Um,
Transformation Talk Radio.
I just recently backed it down to once a month. And so it's on the last Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. This was great, and I'm looking forward to when your book comes out because I want to definitely learn more about this because we all got a little bit of crazy, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Thanks
And
for having me.
yeah, and I wish you much luck. And I want to thank everyone today for being here. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me via my website, hittingtherestartbutton.com. And remember, you can always hit the restart button on your vibe and changing your frequency to an energy of love, abundance, and joy. Until next time. Bye-bye, Susan.
Bye. Have a good one.
You've been listening to The High Vibe Show, living the high vibe life. I'm your host, Elisa V, the Queen of High Vibe. Join us every first and third Monday of the month at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. This is the place to come for you to have loads of fun, frequency upgrades now, and have great guests to hear all about raising your frequency. For more information, visit hittingtherestartbutton.com. See you next time.